Hello and welcome everyone. It's great to see so many of you here. I feel a little bit intimidating, I must admit. Today we're going to share how we've helped some of our customers drive their digital transformation by putting people at the centre of their change. So I'm Michael McGowan, I'm part of our leadership team at BJSS in Scotland. I'm an Agile Delivery Manager and happiest when enabling teams to collaborate effectively and to help our clients get to the outcomes that they want to achieve. And this is Craig Docherty. He wears multiple hats for our clients as a business analyst, product owner, and Craig's also the business analysis capability lead for us in Scotland. So before we kick off, a very quick intro to BJSS. We're the leading private-owned technology and engineering consultancy in the country, with over 2,500 talented people working together on complex projects. We have 26 locations in the UK, Europe, US and Australia, and by growing regionally, it's allowed us to focus on the needs of our clients in each region. We have 9 tightly integrated services to drive the transformation journey, all underpinned by Enterprise Agile, which is an award-winning approach to Agile delivery. And if you're quick, you can grab a free book on your way out that can teach you a bit more about that. We also have course accredited partnerships with Microsoft, AWS, Google Cloud and many others. We've got significant tech landscape and industry understanding across multiple sectors. Trusted by our clients, we collaborate to deliver complex, innovative technology, engineering and industry solutions that millions of people use every day. We also think of ourselves as a little bit of Scotland's best kept secret. So we've been going about 5 years here, but BJSS has been going for 30 years. So you may or may not have heard of our 2 brands. We're one company, 2 brands, both defined by quality, innovation and delivery. So at BJSS, 30 years of true engineering excellence. Our clients trust us to deliver their complex technology solutions, and at Spark, our design agency of thinkers, innovators, strategists, researchers and designers, they sit at the heart of everything we do. And this allows us to deliver true end-to-end solutions via modern agile design thinking and DevOps practices. But enough of the sales pitch, that's not what we're here for today. So everyone in this room knows that making meaningful, sustained and transformative change is difficult. Change is a very broad term. And if you ask Google, why is change difficult, it provides 3.4 billion results. So can we be a bit more specific? Well, firstly, digital is also a very broad term. Do we mean products or code or AI or apps or APIs? Journey to the cloud, data, paperless, agile ways of working. It could literally be anything and everything. So we're off to a bit of a confusing start here. And for organisations, it can also mean different things to different departments, so from technology to the business, finance, marketing, they've all got a different view of what digital transformation is. So how much budget is spent on digital transformation across these departments? Are they aligned? What's the strategy? So why is organisational change so difficult? Well, many organisations struggle with change for a whole host of reasons. There's a few up here. There are many, many more, but the complexity of the change that they're trying to drive, a focus on tech, not people, lack of leadership, poor implementation and a lack of agility, unrealistic expectations and poor communication. So if we focus on a couple of these, lack of leadership, is the vision clear? Why are we doing this? What's the strategy? Poor communication, where are we in the journey? What does this change mean for me? And a focus on tech, not people. Whether it's the implementation teams that are actually creating the change, or if it's the end users who will actually receive the product, they're often considered far too late or not at all. And generally this means that many transformation programs will exceed their budgets, fail to meet planned dates, fail to meet their goals, or often actually all of the above. And this doesn't bring in other factors like competition, even outside factors like the dreaded pandemic, even war that we've seen recently. So yeah, for multiple reasons, digital transformation is very difficult. If you throw in the fact that people will resist change, so I'm sure nobody finds that a surprising statement. There's a huge amount of studies into the psychology of change, and people are naturally resistant to it. And it's not because they've been difficult, it's because actually it's just human nature. So great leadership will recognise this, and will also understand that people's feelings on change can change and they can be positively influenced. The Harvard Business Review identified these 10 reasons people are resistant to change. And we could easily spend the next half hour on this subject, but we'd be happy to hear we won't. Excess uncertainty, if it feels like walking off a cliff blindfolded, people will resist the change. The surprise element, decisions imposed on people suddenly without any time to prepare, they'll be resisted. Past resentments, people have been impacted by previously attempted change, and they'll have their views on what it means for the change coming. And sometimes actually the threat is real. So if changes are going to impose threat to individuals, then leaders need to be honest and transparent about that. So this McKinsey report is quoted very often. I'm sure you've seen similar statements before. Some 70% of complex, large-scale change programs don't reach their stated goals. So how many times have you heard that? In fact, some recent studies have shown it's much more nuanced than that, and maybe 10%-ish of transformations will fail. Some will be an overwhelming success, but most will sit on the scale in between. So far, so negative, right? Generally, there's a lot of negativity surrounding digital transformation programs. And at BJSS, we think it's important to get away from negative connotations of change. So, of course, change is never easy, but it's always possible. Mic drop and I'm off. No, so how do we tackle change? So we're not going to change the world in half an hour, but I want to share 3 critical factors to driving effective digital transformation. And you could say some of these are common sense, but we see time and again that these are missing across all industry sectors. So starting with leadership, our business consulting practice at BJSS help organisations in this area. We've been recognised as one of the UK's leading management consultants. We recognise great leadership is critical to the successful digital and organisational transformation programmes. And for that, again, for that's common knowledge, quite often the correct kind of leadership is missing in organisations when it comes to transformation. So what does good leadership look like in digital transformation? So if we take the iPhone, it's an era-defining technology. But as brilliant as this guy was, he certainly didn't do it all by himself. So great leaders will always provide clear vision and goals. By providing a compelling case for change, a clear roadmap for how to deliver it, they should ensure the why of any transformation is evident to everyone that's involved. They also understand that they don't have the answer to everything, so they inspire inclusion and diversity in their decision-making, and this should filter down through the organisation, down to people who are leading individual teams, all the way up to the top. They encourage initiative, experimentation and problem solving amongst their teams, so they foster a real mindset for creativity and innovation. And effective leaders must empower their teams and nurture a culture of psychological safety. So by doing this, effective leaders won't only drive the digital transformation, but they'll support the growth and nurturing of future leaders in their organisations. Last but not least, they always encourage positive emotions related to change. So don't forget to celebrate success, even the small ones. And people react very well to positive reinforcement when it's authentic and sincere. So ultimately, a people-first leadership approach will help drive successful transformation. Great leaders also understand that communication is everything. So the second point here, true digital transformation affects every part of a business. We've heard how people resist change. Communication is multifaceted, and it's not just about product and timelines. So create a strong culture by improving engagement. Put people at the centre of your communication. Always consider how the change impacts the comms audience and tailor that accordingly. Help everyone understand the why. So again, go back to the leadership. Always relate back to the vision and the goals of the transformation through all communication. Be clear and concise. Ensure the thread of the vision is there, but promote open, honest and transparent communication at all levels. So right down to the people who are delivering that change, building the products. That's got to be very clear and open as to why they're doing it. And I think most importantly for me, not everyone likes to communicate in the same way. So we need to ensure a people-first Omnichannel approach. So multi-channel isn't enough in these changing times. People have got choices. You need to understand your employees and your customers. You need to know how they interact with your organisation. And you need to give them a consistent and cohesive experience across all touch points of your organisation. So you should remember that every single communication is an opportunity to positively impact on the people who will determine the success of your transformation. So those people are the ones that are going to drive your digital transformation. And lastly, how do you go about doing that? How do you understand your people, your colleagues, and your customers? A human-centric approach is absolutely imperative to digital transformation. So whether it's a product, an app, a website, a process, it really doesn't matter. Putting people at the centre is the key. And this is not a design thing. It's a mindset. It's a problem-solving framework that puts people first. So at BJSS and Spark, we believe in the power of design. We're invested in making sure technology works to serve humans better. We're passionate about creating a lasting change. So to do that, we must understand users' needs. And we do that through research and design. We need to focus on the who and the why. We need to get out and speak to people and understand the problems from their perspective. And once you've done that, you need to understand the context. You need to understand people will interact differently with your change or your product in different ways. What are their individual pain points? What are their user journeys? When they come into your organisation, where are they trying to get to? And we experiment and explore and validate solutions by prototyping, getting changes in front of users, getting their feedback, and iterating your design so that it's really got that human-centered approach. So by defining how desirable, feasible, and viable any solution could be, we design better end-to-end experience for everyone. Now, just on this point, human-centric leadership was a really big trend in 2022, and that's only going to continue. So empathetic leaders, people who understand human beings and how they interact, are better equipped to lead in this era of choice. So a couple of nice quotes that bring this to life for me. We can't solve problems by using the same kind of thinking we used when we created them. So we need to understand from a user's perspective. We spend a lot of time designing the bridge, but not enough time thinking about the people who are crossing it. And lastly, people ignore designs that ignore people. So if you don't consider them, they're not going to use your product, they're not going to deal with your organisation, they'll go elsewhere. So we follow the well-known design thinking double diamond. So you've probably seen versions of this all over the place, but we've got something of a twist. So by combining our Spark design expertise with our technology expertise at BJSS, we design to deliver. So this is all about embedding the right skill sets into teams. So all those innovators and strategists and designers and user researchers are all very much part of the same team with our engineers and our business analysts and our delivery managers and our testers. And we encourage critical thinking, breaking down boundaries and trying new things. So this approach really allows us to drive innovation and accelerate digital transformation. So Craig's example will touch on this a bit more, but I'll pull out a few examples before I pass the baton here. So this is just a small selection of some of the organisations we've helped on their transformation journeys by using a human-centric approach. We've completed well over 40 government digital service and Digital Scotland service standard assessments. That's a bit of a mouthful, but yet we're experts in building services to meet user needs. At Disclosure Scotland, we delivered a European first. We migrated highly sensitive police data onto a next-generation public cloud platform without compromising security standards. And our human-centric approach and clear approach to comms was really crucial throughout that. This transformation not only delivered significant cost savings for the agency, but also provided a foundation for their wider digital transformation programme. And this really genuinely is making Scotland a safer place. At the DVSA, we helped transform what was an 85-year-old paper-based driving test report and created a fully digital practical driving test. So we introduced agile ways of working, digital transformation, but the user-centric design there was central to that. As a result, examiners are more enabled. Crucially, it's contributing to the safety of Britain's roads. And lastly here, NHS. We helped generate significant cost and efficiency savings for the NHS by completely re-architecting, re-engineering and rebuilding the NHS spine. Now, strong leadership at C-suite level was absolutely crucial to driving that transformational change. And given the cost and efficiency savings, the NHS is able to reinvest vital frontline services. So this is truly meaningful transformation at the highest possible scale, all done with a human-centric approach. So I've covered some of the theory. I'll hand over to Craig now, who will take you on a little bit of a journey.
Good morning, folks. So in this section, I'd like to take on a bit of a journey through the engagement that we have with Lloyds Banking Group and show how we are engaging with them on their transformation journey. But hopefully I'll also leave you with some practical insights that you can take away to apply to your own transformation efforts. I'll start with the two main ingredients that really are critical to the success of the project that we've had. First, it's probably no surprise that we are focused on people. We are putting people at the heart of our transformation effort, but it's not only the people that we're looking to effect change on, but those that are designing and leading the change. We've been clear, and the client was also, that we are one team. There's no delineation between Lloyds Banking Group, BJSS or Spark. When we are engaging in Lloyds Banking Group, we are just a transformation team, working towards one goal with one purpose. But it's not just about the people. We've also built a really nicely branded, tightly branded vehicle for transformation. So we are the open source mission, we're leading the way, and we use the torch as our logo. So let me unpack that a little bit. We say leading the way because this change is a collaborative effort. We don't know everything, but what we do know is that there are great pockets of expertise, knowledge, and talented engineers in Lloyds Banking Group that will help us on our way. The torch itself serves as a nice rallying point. It's a beacon to follow. And if you think of the Olympics, right, that torch going from hand to hand, going from the small spark to the giant cauldron at the end, you get something that is greater than the sum of the parts. But it goes beyond just our graphical assets. We've spent a lot of time thinking about our tone of voice, who we are, how we approach open source, what's our attitude in general, how, quite frankly, do we engage with people, and how do they engage with us? So overall, we've built that transformation vehicle that people can come to, can recognize, and crucially collaborate with to reach that transformation goal. Let's take a step back now and set the project in context. As I say, this is a collaboration with Lloyds Banking Group, and we have a very clear vision statement from them on what they want to achieve, crucially highlighting their modern technology agenda, being an attractive destination for talented engineers, and also helping Britain prosper by giving their engineers the capability to do that. So it looks at open source software transformation, and we'll cover what that is in a moment. And we look at a whole bunch of different things there, looking at governance, processes, people, technology, the works. But it is also broad-scale transformation. We're not just looking at one team, we're looking at things holistically, across technology and non-technology components together to ensure we have that transformation aligned. It's always nice when we get a quote from within the project as well, and Pui is our program lead. So we've been on this project for 18 months now, and it's really lovely to see that we've built that strong foundation to go forward with. But as we say, it's a journey, and the delight we have here is that we don't just have one way forward, we've got many ways forward based on what we've done, what we've learned. And I'm sure the more we go on, the more we learn, the more avenues will come to us. I also appreciate we're not all from a technology background, so I'll set open source in context for you so we're all on the same page. As an ex-academic, I always enjoy defining terms before we get into discussion. So open source software is code that's open to development. Anyone in this room could download it, we could modify it, we can ask to give it back to the world, assuming it meets coding standards. It's generally free to use. There can be cost implications around attribution or open sourcing your own code, but generally free to use. And it's maintained by communities. These people are passionate. They care deeply about the products that they engage with. They give up their time, their effort, their energy to make sure everything's on top of the world, and it's great stuff to use. But it's also widespread. So this particular package underpins a lot of the web, and there's a very, very big scary number there, and there's also a very small number there. And what it speaks to is the sheer scale that a piece of open source software can go to, but also how few people we actually rely on to make sure that is kept safe, secure, and usable. So when we look at open source transformation in Lloyds Banking Group, we can engage with that, and we'll talk about what that means in wider context in a moment. And touching back on what Michael said, we use a human-centered approach, right? So we ask these questions, and when we get a yes back on all three, we have that innovation sweet spot in the middle. That's where the magic happens, and we've definitely had magic happen on this project. So I've said a few times that we've had success, right? But what does that success look like? Well, the most public of that success is we've actually achieved organizational change at scale. Prior to the engagement starting, Lloyds engineers were unable to contribute to external open source repositories from within the group. They now can. That involved everything from lining up technology assets to our legal teams to risk to everybody in between. It was a complete omnichannel change. And we had two engineers doing that, Daniele and Salva, writing the code to do it. When Salva pushed the button to commit, we said it's one small commit for Salva, one giant leap for Lloyds Banking Group. And much like landing someone on the moon, change of this nature doesn't happen overnight, it doesn't happen easily, and it doesn't happen without hard work. And we think often of this JFK quote in relation to the moon race. And it's true, we do these things because they're hard, there's a challenge, and there's a lot we can learn and get from it. But one of the other successes we've had in this project, it's a bit harder to quantify, comes from a similar quote in the same speech, where JFK spoke about what we'll learn as we go on this journey. And what we've been able to do is each step of the way, take the lessons we're learning, the things we're uncovering, and bring them back into our project. So each step we take, we're then stronger as we reach the final destination. But some change is like dropping a pebble in a pond, right? And the successes you see from it. We know if we drop a pebble in the pond, there will be ripples. That's an expected outcome. And with any change effort, you will see ripples. What we don't know is what impact those ripples will have. And this perhaps is some of the nicest success we've had, but also the hardest to quantify in two words. What if? When we hear those words, we're hearing magic unfold because what we're seeing is someone who's looking beyond what you're trying to transform and engaging with the realm of possibilities that they might not have thought possible before. It's taking that negative connotation we spoke about previously, that transformation may be a blocker, people may be against it, and going, actually, you can change, you can aspire, and you can dream. And that conversation gets no less powerful every time we have it, and it's a delight every time we do. But those are a bunch of successes and things we've done that's great. But what can you take away? How can you transform what you're doing? What did we do to reach this? First thing we did was start with why. So when we came into Lloyds Banking Group, we realised they were looking to this new digital future. So we had some questions. What does open source look like in that regard? Why now? How does it fit into that modern technology agenda? What are we trying to do here, and why does it matter? So we went and spoke to a lot of folks in a lot of different ways, everyone from technical to right through to non-technical, because having that holistic view was important. We figured, what are your hopes, your fears, your ambitions, your concerns? What worked well in previous transformation efforts? What didn't work so well? We took that all together to build a holistic view of why this change mattered to people, but more importantly, in what way that why differed for each of those groups. Because whilst we're going to the same outcome, why it's important is not the same for every single person on that journey. Which takes us to our next thing. We put people first and technology second. So the headline here is we have introduced no new pieces of technology to Lloyds Banking Group to enable this transformation. Everything we've done has been built on technology they already have. We just focus on the people. So we've got an approach to this. And we'll do a few things. So we start with needs analysis, that's our start with why. Also combined with service design, looking at things in that holistic viewpoint, because if we don't understand the full journey, we'll miss things. So yes, a lovely output is having the engineer able to contribute, but if we don't realise that you've got to line up legal and risk and everybody else to enable that ability, the engineer won't be able to do it, and there'll be resistance to change in other parts of the organisation, coming back to the surprise aspect Michael spoke about earlier. We pilot. We know we're not going to get it right first time every time, but we fail fast. We learn from that failure, and we implement our learnings, coming back stronger each time, and ultimately getting to that end goal quicker and better with all those insights that we gain. We focus on learning and development. We know that we can't ask people to change if we don't support them on that journey, and that's holistic. It's not just our technical colleagues that we look to change, it's non-technical as well, and making sure everyone's comfortable with the change and what it means for them. So we've developed a full learning program around that in the context of this project. We've planned. We identified some real open source superstars and champions inside Lloyds Banking Group. These are people who are passionate, enthusiastic, and experienced. So we came to them first and said, what can we learn from you? And how can you help us drive the change that we want to drive? And that's about a collaboration. And so when we are now coming to teams who are maybe a step or two behind on that journey, but want to reach the same goal, we can show them what's possible by pointing to their colleagues and saying, look, these guys can do it, you can do it, we can help you get there. And finally, we communicate. We do events like this. In Lloyds Banking Group, we do a whole bunch of stuff, but what we do is we go to where the audience is. So not literally, because there's many different offices, right? But in the sense of we go to their groups, we speak to them in terms that mean something to them. We articulate what we are doing in their why. Because if we don't, and we just speak about what we're trying to do and how we're trying to do it, people will switch off. Why we're doing what we're doing for them is the key differentiator here. And final takeaway for you just now in this set is the change we make today needs to be sustained tomorrow. Otherwise, we're stuck in a continual loop of repeating the same change that only breeds resentment to that change. So Michael spoke about our double diamond with the delivery aspect on the end. But for me, it's this, our circle of change, right? Because every single time we reach a delivery milestone, and every time we deliver as a step on that journey to eventual transformation, we have an opportunity to define a new part of that transformation journey, or to improve the change we've just made to make sure it beds in properly. So we are on that journey, right? So let's set it in context. The learning program that I spoke about, we defined that as a requirement. We knew where to get there, so we developed it. We got experts in from learning and development. We got the open source superstars, and we built the content, and we trialed it. We then thought, right, we've got a good product. Well, let's make sure we embed that change properly by getting actual engineers using it in anger over a period of time so we can build that data and also our confidence in the change. We're now at a point where we're confident, and yet another opportunity presents itself, but also a nice challenge, because there's a lot of lovely engineers and there's not a lot of us. So you've got that scaling problem, right? So the pivot point for us now is to develop a self-service learning program that empowers the engineers to take themselves on their program, whilst allowing us to pivot to the next opportunity for change. So we're confident that the change we leave behind is there, it is usable, and it's worthwhile, and then we can go and solve the next problem. If I can break it all down for you into one takeaway, it would be this. Complexity of analysis leads to simplicity of solution. Let me unpack that for you. Complexity of analysis speaks to the rigor of the work you do to understand the why. If we don't understand that in its holistic sense, then we can't get to that simplicity of solution, which doesn't mean it's easy. It will usually be very difficult, but it means you can articulate the change you're trying to do in ways that mean something to people. So when we were looking at our change, we wanted to enable that contribution aspect. By understanding that full holistic picture by doing the rigor, we could go to the legal team and say, we'd like to do this change, here's why we'd like to do it, and here's how we'd like your help. And when you can have those conversations, change becomes a bit easier. You can have that great communication as you go through. So to return and recap a little bit, we used a human-centered approach to this, right? And we found that the business is feasible, the technology is viable, which is great. What about that bit in the middle? Well, we built a bridge, right? We started with why to understand the space. We put people first to make sure we're articulating in a way that means something to the people we want to change. And we make sure that the change that we have is solid before we move on so that we know it's embedded. In short, we've used people to build a bridge between the business and technology. Without this, the change wouldn't be possible. The successes we've achieved and where we've gotten to on the transformation journey, we wouldn't be here today. So I've spoken a fair bit about open source software and how we're transforming things in Lloyds Banking Group in collaboration with them. But in reality, this could be anything. So before I hand back to Michael, the challenge I'd like to leave you with is, what do you want to transform? What is it you're working on, and how would you use this to affect change in your part of the world? I'm definitely keen to hear that after the session and breakouts. Michael.
So, thank you very much, Craig. That's a real-world example of change that's going on just now and truly transformational. Key takeaways as we wrap up. Always put people first, use a human-centric approach, and this goes across everything. It's not just design, it's not just technology, it's everything in between. Great communication is absolutely everything, so getting that message out, making sure everybody knows what's involved in your transformation. And great leadership drives change. Leadership throughout the organisation, not just at the top. Lastly, great change. Change is never easy, but it's always possible. So we would love to talk a bit more. We're obviously just about out of time. But please, add us on LinkedIn. Come and grab us in the breakout area. Come see our BJSS stand. We've got lots and lots and lots of good stories about how we've helped organisations do this. And also, last pitch, grab a book on your way out. If you're too late, you can download one from the website. Thank you very much.